So you may have seen my recent video telling anime fans to support the shows they love by spending money on them. It's unfortunate that for the most part we can't really just send money straight to anime studios to show support, because that kind of patronage is mostly limited to individual creators making content on the internet such as myself. However, there are countless ways for you to show your support for the shows you love to whatever extent you see fit by buying lots of anime crap, and in this video I'm going to show you a lot of the crap that you can buy. Want to support the industry but don't want crap littering your house? Just buy it and give it to a friend. Remember that for the most part, the point here is not so much about buying these items for the sake of owning them as it is buying them in order to send money to the creators of these things. Although both are fully acceptable reasons to buy this stuff. As for where to find all of the things that I'll talk about, there's countless resources, but the best and easiest one is just Amazon. They've been stocking a surprising amount of anime-related goods, even a lot of them with Amazon Prime support, but I'll also be putting links to a whole bunch of other websites that have broader selections down in the description. A lot of these other websites do have pretty extreme shipping rates though, so I recommend that you do a lot of research and make sure you know what you're getting yourself into before you spend any money. The first and most obvious way to spend money on anime is just to purchase the material itself. A lot of the anime that's adapted from light novels and manga and stuff like that are partially funded by the publishers of the source material because the anime helps to sell the source material. So if you want to buy the original light novels or buy the original manga, you're often supporting the show as well and helping it to possibly get continued in the future. Plus, sometimes the source material is just a much more expansive and better version of the story, so you should just buy it and show support for the creators who made the original great story. Not to say that the anime of this is not good, because it is. Then, of course, you can buy the actual anime itself. Unfortunately, there are not a lot of series that are available for digital purchase. iTunes does have a pretty limited selection that's mostly just anime movies that you can download, and Amazon has a bunch of random shows that you can get digital downloads for, so you can buy stuff there. You can also, while not getting a download and not having it like yourself, you can pay for subscriptions to streaming services like Hulu, Crunchyroll, or Netflix. These are a really small way of supporting the industry, and it doesn't really help individual shows that much. So if you want to show your support for just the shows you love and vote with your wallet, then I recommend actually buying things from the show. American DVDs and Blu-rays are very fairly priced these days. I got this 14 episodes of Hidamori Sketch for like $30 a few years back. But it really comes down to a matter of perspective and personal opinion to determine what you find to be affordable or worthwhile pricing for DVDs and Blu-rays. See, when I got into anime growing up, then the only legal way of watching anime that wasn't on TV was to buy the DVDs, and you were on average paying $30 for 3 to 5 episodes, and that was just what you had to pay. So anime was way more expensive in the West than it's gotten. So as I'm concerned, something like 13 episodes for $50 is a steal, and plenty of shows run much cheaper than that, as I've already shown. Ultimately, the question of how much you should be willing to pay for your DVDs and Blu-rays comes down to a question of what your intentions are when you're buying it. Are you buying the DVDs just because you want to own them, or are you buying them because you want to show support to the creators of the show? If you're buying it just to own it, then anime can be found used on the cheap, you know, anywhere in a bargain bin, and this is a 99-cent used Madlax DVD. I hate this show, but I love hating it. It's like I used to write like a whole series of posts about how much I hated this show, so I wanted to own it, but obviously I didn't want to support the creators, so I got it cheap in a bargain bin, you know. However, if you're trying to buy the show in order to support it, then the question becomes, how much money are you willing to put up for supporting the show? And of course, if you're motivated both by wanting to own the product and by wanting to support the show, then you will probably spend a lot more money than you would have otherwise. I spent about $200 getting the special edition versions of all 4 Haruhi DVDs when they came out in the US. However, it's for this reason that I usually end up buying stuff other than DVDs and Blu-rays these days. I've actually stopped collecting them as of a few years ago. Reason being that a lot of US anime releases are kind of lackluster. They often will release Blu-rays that have inferior quality to what the Japanese Blu-rays are putting out, meaning that even the fan-subbed versions of the shows typically look better than the US Blu-rays. And they don't really come with a lot of extras these days, they're usually made on the cheap, so it seems kind of weird to pay for what is ultimately an inferior product. So this brings us to the subject of Japanese Blu-rays and DVDs. Now, if you still haven't read the Anime News Network article that I will be linking once again in the description, and I've linked it like 5 times now, so you should probably just hurry up and get around to reading it, called The Anime Economy. It explains the cultural differences that have led Japanese DVDs and Blu-rays to be exponentially more expensive than they are in the US. It's not unusual for a 13-episode show to have 7 Blu-ray releases at $50 to $70 a piece over in Japan, but they typically are really high quality, they have some cool extras a lot of the time, sometimes they come with shit, and it's because they're so much more expensive and fans are willing to pay so much more for them that the Japanese companies don't really see the West as a viable market, because it would take 10 anime fans spending $50 a piece on a 13-episode anime in America to equal the amount that one fan will spend on that same show in Japan just buying the Blu-rays. So it's not simply a matter of there being fewer anime fans in the West, but the anime fans that we have don't account for as many sales, for as much product as the Japanese fans do. So they just don't make a lot of shows that are aimed towards the West. They don't try to advertise too much to the West because they kind of see it as they're gonna lose money because we won't pay enough for our DVDs and Blu-rays. However, there have been a number of Japanese DVD and Blu-ray releases which come with English subtitles, such as this Japanese Princess Mononoke DVD that I picked up sometime, which has English subtitles. I think most of the Ghibli movies have them, and there's an increasing number of Japanese DVDs that have them now, some of which are obviously being made to influence Western buyers into buying the Japanese Blu-rays. We've also got companies like Aniplex who have started jacking up the price of the American releases to better reflect the Japanese ones. They're still a lot cheaper, and a lot of people complain about the Aniplex DVDs that they're too expensive and that no one's gonna buy them, but they're still much cheaper than they would be in Japan. It's just Aniplex's way of saying, fuck it, we're not gonna just sell our shit at a loss, which is what a lot of these companies have been doing by having the American companies sell their product so much cheaper when it costs a lot to localize the show, to put dubs on it and stuff like that, to actually get all the rights, get all the stuff sorted out to get these shows over here, only for them to sell them so cheaply. They often lose money in the process. So Aniplex is trying to raise the price of their DVDs to save themselves, basically. Now, I know it might seem crazy to some people to spend all that money on Aniplex DVDs or Japanese Blu-rays when you could just get the American versions for cheaper or just have fan subs for free, but the bottom line, once again, is that it comes down to what are your intentions. Are you just wanting to own the product, or are you wanting to give money to the companies that make good shows that you like? Now, I'm not saying that there's necessarily any anime that are worth hundreds of dollars, you know, you might end up spending trying to buy Japanese Blu-rays. Maybe most shows you only feel like are worth 30 bucks or so that you would pay to get the American DVDs, and that's totally understandable, but again, comes down entirely to intentions. Think about this stuff. Actually, when you go to buy a show, like, think about how much is this show worth to me? How much did I enjoy it? How much did it enrich my life? How much do I want it in my life further? And then attach a monetary value to that. Also, let me just put in also some links to videos that are about this exact subject for gaming, because Super Bunny Hop and Vadi Video have both made great videos also about voting with your wallet for what you think a game is worth. Now, staying inside the realm of media purchases, there's also a lot of tie-in products that get made, like additional manga series that get made after the original anime comes out, which may or may not be interesting. I've never actually read this one. I got it for free at a Bandai panel once, but you know, Eureka 7 tie-in manga. There's been tie-in novels for a lot of stuff. Death Note, XXX Holic both had novels written by Nisio Isin, the guy who wrote Bakemonogatari, so there's some interesting ones, but yeah, you can look into tie-in merchandise. There's a lot of tie-in Madoka comics, like holy shit, they keep making them. And then you've got your art books and your series guidebooks. Now, art books usually are showing off the artwork of the anime in question. Sometimes it'll be like storyboards, scenes from the show, or original concept art. Depends on what kind of book it is. Sometimes it's for a specific artist or something, but series guidebooks, meanwhile, seem to really exist for no reason other than here's something you can spend your money on related to this show. These, in Japan, I mean, this one says 1,400 yen, so that's like 15 bucks for the Nia Under 7 one. They're usually more like $20 to $30 here because because of the import rates. It's usually got like just lots of text information about the show, which usually is nothing that revolutionary. There's also sometimes maybe this one, it's got a whole manga inside of it, but it'll just be like lots of random details about the show, pictures of the characters and stuff. It's mostly just for you to buy something related to the shows. This is a perfect, like, I bought this to show support kind of product. And the prices can run a huge range on either of these. Like, this is a really thin series guidebook, but they make thicker ones. Art books, the cheaper ones that I own ran me $20 to $30. This one I think was $35, whereas the most expensive one I own was about $80, I think, for this. This is a Yoshitoshi Abe art book, but it's like, you know, hardcover with the like case around it and stuff. It's like really nice. The pages are thick and weighty. These are usually really great shelf candy. They look good on your shelves, and I think they can get even more expensive than this, but yeah, they run a huge price range. And this really comes down to a like, how badly do I want to own it more than a how badly do I want to support the show kind of thing. Now, on the audio front, most anime soundtracks come out on CD, or they put out collections of songs from the show. This is a Rurouni Kenshin Best Theme Collection. I've also got here Revolutionary Girl Utena soundtrack, one of like 4 that were made. So sometimes there's multiple soundtracks, and you'll also get tons of singles for all the opening and ending songs. This is the opening single from Haruhi, ending single from Haruhi. Then you get the character song albums, which certain shows have, where like each character has a few songs dedicated to them, usually performed by their voice actress. You might get singles for insert songs. I think this is the God Knows single. Some shows, such as The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya, get really crazy with their CD marketing. Now, for a while, there were a pretty good number of anime soundtracks coming out in the US. This is a Western release of the Utena soundtrack that was put out by Geneon, and they had put out a lot of CDs, but then Geneon went out of business, and now it's a lot rarer to find them. Sometimes you get these combo packs. This was also a Geneon one, but you'll find like a box set will come with the soundtrack or something like that. Those still get made. I know Psycho-Pass had one, but it's a lot rarer. Now, in Japan, once again, this is a case where cultural differences, stuff's more expensive, so the average CD or soundtrack will run you like $30 US, and the average single, this is not a single, the average single will run you like $10 to $15 before shipping. It depends on where you buy it though. You might pay a little bit more than you're used to paying for CDs. Sadly, almost nothing comes out on vinyl in Japan, so no luck there. I should also mention that a lot of anime and manga receive tie-in video games, which completely run the gamut of quality, but I have an Inuyasha game for the PS1 that was actually released in the United States. A lot of these do get released here if it's for like popular stuff like Naruto or One Piece. A lot of those games come out here. A lot of those shows also receive tons of games. There's like a million Dragon Ball Z games. It's its own genre, literally. But most anime games are visual novels on the PSP. The PSP and the PS Vita are like much bigger consoles over in Japan, and there's a lot of shows that have like little minor tie-in games on the PSP and PS Vita that never get translated into English, so they're almost impossible to play if you don't read Japanese, but maybe look into them. There's some ones that I would like to own, like the Toradora game for the PSP, which actually takes the ending a little farther than the anime did, or even the original novels, so I've always wanted to play it, but it's only in Japanese. And there are also plenty of anime that are adapted from video games, such as Persona 4, which has had 2 anime adaptations already. Obviously, paying for the original game is going to support both the show and the game, and in almost every case, the game is much better than the show that it's based on, so, you know, go get the original, it's probably better. Moving away from media now, let's talk about another way that you can spend money on anime and just sink tons of money into it that has gotten really popular, especially in the last decade or so. Figures. There are a few basic types of figures, so I'm going to go over each of them and explain what kind of figures you can get and what kind of price ranges they belong in. Pretty much the top tier figures are scale models. These are the ones that are drawn to scale of the character. They're pre-painted, they are stylishly designed, and these run a huge range of price and quality. Like, you can get really high tier ones, really low tier ones. This is the most expensive figure I own. I think it was like $130 or $140. As you can see, it's quite detailed. Whereas some of the cheaper figures I own might have only run me like, this one that you're seeing is like $15, I think, and they can get, you know, up to 30 or so for ones like this. Really runs the whole range. I have ones that were 50, ones that were 70, like any number you can throw out, there's pre-painted figures that fall into that range. Once again, this is a case where a huge part of how much you'll be willing to spend on a figure really comes down to how much you want the figure in question, more so than wanting to support the show, probably. Next up, we have posable toys, whether they are action figures or dolls. I don't own any anime dolls, and there's not a ton of them out there, and they are extremely expensive, so unless you're a big-time doll collector with a lot of money to spare, you probably won't end up buying any dolls. They'll probably be out of your range. Posable toys, meanwhile, typically run like $30 to $60, depending on what brand it is. There are some that are a little more expensive if you get the Soul of Chogokin robot figures, which are like $100+. The most popular brands are Figma, which are these very positionable toys that come with a lot of extras. They usually have all kinds of things that you can use them for. I bought mine always intending to make some kind of stop-motion movie with them and then never getting around to it. And then Revoltex, which are usually more robot-based, but they're also highly posable little pre-built toys that are a lot of fun to play with and really stable and hold their pose really well. Another type of posable toy that comes with lots of accessories that have gotten really popular in the last 10 years are Nendoroids, these adorable little guys. I love them. They're great for making little 4-coma comics or stop-motion videos, like if you've seen my depression review video, I use these little guys in that, so they're a lot of fun. There's probably like 100 characters that have these now. They're my favorite. Next up, trading figures. These come in several sizes, be they the really tiny ones that are just kind of adorable and super deformed, or maybe some more regular sized ones that are more normal. But in general, these are really small, usually not that detailed, and they come cheap. Depending on where you buy them from and what kind they are, they can run anywhere from $5 to $20. A lot of these are sold in vending machines in Japan or in little random boxes, which means that you don't know which one you're gonna get for the most part. Usually it's a set and you can see on the box like all the figures in the set, but you don't know which one you're gonna get in your box. And then you can often find them like unboxed versions for sale either on the internet or in certain stores, but they will mark up the price because you know what you're getting and you won't buy multiples hoping to get the one you want. So personally, I very rarely buy these unless I buy them like out of the box, because I almost never get the character that I want the most when I buy these. Next up are model kits, which you also do assemble yourself, and if you want them to look truly legit, you'll have to paint them and stuff, which most of the like hardcore model kit makers do. My brother's got a shitload of model kits because he's a big robot fan, but he's never painted any of them, I don't think. So they, depending on the model or like how high quality it is, like this is a really high quality toy. It's got lots of stickers and stuff, lots of color differences, but sometimes the cheaper ones will just be like a solid color and you have to paint it yourself. Also, depending on the quality level, they run a huge range of prices. This one was probably like 60 bucks. The really big ones get into the hundreds range. I saw one that's like giant that was like $300, and some of them are really small and they're like 5 to 10 bucks. So completely depends on the model and what it is. And the best part about model kits is that they're pretty findable in the US. They used to be in like regular stores, now not so much, but a lot of comic stores carry them, easily findable at conventions. Bandai sells them, you can buy them online. They're not hard to come by for the most part. Now before I move on, I want to stress how important it is that you make sure you buy figures, particularly the more popular ones like Nendoroids, from legitimate sources. Make sure you know where you're buying it from, because there are lots of fakes out there. I have a few fakes myself. I have some that are bigger figures, but I also have, here's an example of a Nendoroid where it's got this really glossy like face and everything. You can tell it's not made of the same material that the proper ones are made of. I bought this at like a random place in the Philippines, so you know, places like that often have fakes. There's a lot of them at conventions. You can usually tell either because they don't look that good, they don't look like the up to par paint quality or build quality, or they're not made of the right material, or sometimes the box won't have writing on the bottom. Like typically there's a warning kind of thing on the bottom of a box, and if it doesn't have that, it's usually a sign. Just basically buy your figures online. Buy them from legitimate sources that you trust, and you probably won't run into a lot of fakes, but do be wary of that. Now lastly, we're going to dip our toes a little bit into perhaps the most insane and broad spectrum of anime crap, which is character goods. Character goods consist of virtually anything you can think of that can have an anime character's face printed on it. It exists. You could pretty easily furnish your whole house with anime goods. Your plates, your drapes, your towels, your bed sheets, your everything. You could just have anime goods be your whole house. Usually it's some kind of normal thing that you would have that costs a little bit more and has the anime character you like's face printed on it. And just about every character has a ton of character goods. These exist for two reasons. One, to make lots of cash for the producers, and also for people to show off their insane devotion to the characters that they love. Now, the world of character goods is so broad and deep and multifaceted, and there's so much shit that I can't really dive into all of it here, so I'm just gonna talk about some of the character goods I have to use as examples. On the more normal side of stuff, I have a plushie of Henrietta from Gunslinger Girl. There's lots of plushies out there. That's more of a simple character good that you might expect. Here's a Last Exile mouse pad, heavily used, obviously, but that I got with one of the DVDs. It's just got the characters on it. It's a mouse pad. That's useful. There's a lot of those. Pencil boards are extremely common. There's also file folders, like tons of file folders. I have one from Gunslinger Girl as well. This is one from Read or Die, one that came with like the DVDs or whatever. Tons of these, and a lot of this stuff is cheap. Like the mouse pad's probably like $5 to $10. These are like $5 if you actually want to buy a pencil board. They come with a lot of stuff. File folders, same price range. Here's a deck of cards, like regular playing cards for F, A Fairy Tale of the Two, the game, which F, A Tale of Memories is based off of. My friend got this with a magazine or something and gave it to me because I loved the show, so that exists. Haruhi headband. This came with my Haruhi DVDs, actually. A lot of this stuff comes with stuff, if you haven't gotten that impression already. A lot of these are like bonuses that come with other things. Here's a Froakie hat. This is a more Western variant, actually. I got this at the midnight release of Pokemon X and Y. They had these little hats. Here's one I actually did pay for. These are card sleeves for it's on a Yu-Gi-Oh card. It's a Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, but I have my whole deck has Mayoi from Bakemonogatari card sleeves on it. So I got like a set of like 60 or so, and it was probably $10 or something, probably less than that. Then if you want to get into the more expensive stuff, I own a bed sheet of Chihiro from F. This was from my hardcore otaku days, back when I just wanted to have like all the most otaku shit possible in my house. This thing's enormous. If you can't tell, it's a full-size bed sheet. I won't show you the entire thing. It's not that naughty, but it's a little naughty. That was probably like $80 or something. So there's a lot of those. They can get really expensive. They can get into the hundreds for like rarer ones or more popular characters. But anyway, that's just my quick wrap up, especially because my camera's dying. So that's a sense of what character goods are like. It can be pretty much anything. My brother has a plate with Miyako from Hidamari Sketch's face on it. Like, there's countless stuff. So that about wraps up my exploration of the wonderfully wacky world of anime merchandise that you can buy either to support the show or just to have it. If you want to see more of my collection, I just made an account on myfigurecollection.mach where I've listed like pretty much everything I own that's not a DVD or manga or something like that. That is like a product you can check on my figure collection, link down in the description. I've also made a ton of Digi's Crib videos, which are where I went around my room and explained everything I own. They're kind of dated now, so they won't have literally everything I own, but you know, they've got most of it. And there should be a bunch of good resources down in the description to help you get into this whole world if that's what you want to do and spend all your goddamn money on. So have fun, most importantly, and spend wisely.